Hi everybody, this is Mr. B and you're watching Music Notes. On today's episode, we're going to be learning the differences and similarities between MIDI and audio regions, also known as clips. In Studio One, they have different functions and some functions are the same. So let's get into it with regions. In Studio One, like in other DAWs, every sound you create lives inside a region, but not all the regions are the same. So let's break down the differences between audio regions and MIDI regions. A MIDI region does not contain actual sound. Instead, it holds performance data, like which notes to play, how hard to play them, and how long they last. Basically, it's a digital sheet of instructions for a virtual instrument like a synthesizer, a sampler, or a drum machine. MIDI's really awesome because you can edit the notes. You can change the instruments or even copy the region to a different track. For example, this is my MIDI region, and I can actually double click here and change notes as much as I want to. I can add notes, I can take out notes, I can manipulate a whole bunch of notes, and we'll talk about that later in this tutorial, what we actually can do with MIDI. We can also change the instrument, and if we hover our mouse over this little icon over here, then we can actually see our instrument, and we can easily change our instrument by going into our mix window and selecting, well, not our mix window, actually our browser, and dragging and dropping. That's one of the best parts about Studio One is the drag and drop. If I have a instrument here, which right now it's System 8 and it's some keys, I can simply just drag a different instrument onto the same track, and I can either combine them or I can replace them. And I'll be showing you some of that stuff later in this tutorial also. Here I have two regions. One is an audio region, one is a MIDI region. They are identical musically. I created a region on this MIDI track and I bounced it out to this audio track. An audio region, on the other hand, contains an actual recorded sound, like a guitar or vocals or a bounced sample, which I actually have here. This is a bounced sample from the MIDI region above. It's a waveform. You can see that this is an actual waveform. If I zoom in, you can see that an audio loop is a recorded sound determined by waves. Now you can cut, fade, stretch, and transpose audio, but you cannot change the individual notes inside it because they've already been recorded. So let's go over that real quick. You can cut, and remember how I taught you how to cut? I can just select the cut tool, and I can cut it. And in a MIDI region, I can cut that as well. Okay, these are some similarities. I can trim both in the audio and a MIDI region. I can transpose, which means moving notes up or down in both audio and MIDI. So if I open up the inspector tab and I look at this audio region, I can change the transpose, which is located right here. That means I can move it up or down semitones. So if I want to move it up 3 semitones, I'll type in 3 and I'll change it. Let's just leave it at 0 for now. And if I want to change the MIDI, I can change it exactly the same. If I want to change it up 3 semitones, which is over here on the left-hand side, I can easily just press that as well. So let's just leave that at 0 also. Those are similarities. Those are what we can do with both of our MIDI and audio regions. We can also, well, with our audio region, here's where things get a little bit different. You see in the upper left hand corner right here, I can fade in and I can fade out. We cannot do that with a MIDI region, if you notice. I can trim it, but I can't fade it in or out. I think that's an important distinction between audio and MIDI. You can see that some things we can only do with audio and some things we can only do with MIDI. Now, I'm going to show you how to time warp either an audio or a MIDI track, a MIDI region. This is a very important tool, and it can be used for either of these. So if I look over to the end of this MIDI region, and if I just move this cursor, which looks like a double arrows in either direction, like this, it will move it. It will trim it. It'll just cut those sections out. But if I press Option, now you can see it turned into this little clock icon. That's by pressing Option on a Mac. And now it's not cutting it, but it's stretching the region. That is super cool and really easy to, let's say if I wanted to halftime my region, because when I found this particular MIDI loop, it was set at 160, but my tempo down here is 80. So maybe this is twice as slow as that I really want it. Okay, well, how do I fix that? Let's go to Option. And now I'll just divide that by 2. You can see that now it's going to go twice as fast. We can also do that with an audio region as well. So let's press Option, and now we just time stretched it half of the speed. Remember, MIDI equals performance data, which is editable, flexible, and deals with virtual instruments, where audio equals recorded sound, real, shaped, but not note by note editable. Understanding the difference helps you choose the right tools, whether you're composing from scratch or recording vocal takes. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the commands, which is going to be important for either MIDI or audio. Okay, so I'm going to time stretch both of my audio and my MIDI because they're exactly the same. One's just bounced from the audio to turn into a MIDI, or bounce from MIDI to turn into audio. If I want to duplicate, which means extend our region, all I have to do is press D. And the same applies to audio regions. Press D. And you can do multiple regions at a time if you wanted to. Okay, so now there's something that you can do within audio regions, which is the bend tool. So if you look over here at the top, there is the bend tool on the main timeline. So I'm going to select that, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like with an audio region. If I wanted to bend this, if my guitar or singing was off a little bit, look at how this bends, completely changing the trajectory of what your audio region is going to look like. See, we cannot do that with a MIDI region. Okay, and then one more thing I want to show you is a cross fade. This is really important with audio, not with MIDI. So if I duplicate this track, now if we look at, I've got a duplicate of the same track, two different pieces, and right where they meet, there's going to be some clicking sometimes. Now, to avoid that, all I have to do is press X. You see that? Now this will create a cross fade. And even zoomed in, you can see that there is a cross fade so that both of these regions are not clipping once one ends and one begins. Okay, this is without it, and I'm going to press X to enable it. And if I want to move this over, the crossfade remains. Now you don't need a crossfade with a MIDI region because there's no audio that is clipping. It's just data. Now, something else that we can do with an audio region that we cannot do with a MIDI region is to normalize the gain or adjust the gain. See, this is the gain. That's how loud this is. And to normalize it, which is to boost these volumes up to an appropriate volume, I mean, you can see like I can change the volume right here on this clip. All right. So you can change the volume on an audio clip. So this is the audio clip. Now, another super fun thing that you can do with audio that you cannot do with MIDI is to reverse it. So let's go ahead and reverse this. I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to select the region. You're going to press Control and then go to Audio, and then you'll see Reverse Audio right here. You can also use a shortcut of Command R. And here is reverse audio. So let me show you that again. We're going to come down to audio. And then reverse audio. Now listen to the same region reversed. Now, it's important to understand that we would only mix, that means adding certain effects like reverb, EQ, and delay with an audio region. Okay, this is because audio regions are real recordings, and you manipulate real recordings. You wouldn't manipulate a MIDI data. So let's just say if I made some kind of MIDI data and I bounce it out to an audio region, then I can start adding effects to an audio region. And you can do some really cool stuff by even taking an audio region, adding some effects, bouncing those out, putting it back into the effects, and having no limits on what your imagination can do. Something else that we can do with audio regions is that we can detect transients. Well, what are transients? Transients are these spikes. In an audio region, you cannot detect transients in a MIDI event. Okay? Well, why would this be important? Because if we can detect audio transients, then we can slice them and put them into a sampler and easily start chopping them up. And let me show you exactly how that is going to look. So here's my MIDI region that I want to put into a sampler. Right now I have it reversed. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and turn that back into a forward motion audio region. So that is Command and then Press reverse again, and now it's reverse into forward. What I want to do is to chop this and to be able to put that into a sampler. Let's go to Control. Let's go to Audio part. And let's go to Send to New Impact. Okay, everybody, let's try that again. Command. Audio. Send to New Impact. And you can see, like, here are all of the different functions that we can actually apply to an audio region. And there's a lot. I'm not going to go into every single one of these. So here's normalizing, which would just bring all the volumes to a base of 0. There's Melodyne, which we're going to get into in another tutorial. There's separating the stems, which is another tutorial. And auto fades, cross fades, decreasing volume, resetting the gain envelope. And there's audio bending, detecting the tempo. If you don't know the tempo of your MIDI region or your audio region, detecting the transients, which that's the one I want. You can see that now. At all of these transient points, we can have been detected. And it's not perfect, and there's obviously some transients that you can see that it did not detect. But let's just put this into an impact session right now. And then if I just press impact session, not only did it put it into its own brand new impact session, it also made a MIDI version of that whole sample. So we took a MIDI version, we bounced into audio, and then we bounced that into MIDI clips of the audio. Kind of crazy. Hear how it's very choppy? That's because these are MIDI clips of these audio regions. And if I didn't want this particular detectable audio into impact, well, then I can just come back over here. Let's default this. And now all of these regions that I sliced through the detector, I can individually drag and drop. Well, actually, I would have to slice them first. I can drag and drop them into my sampler. Now that we got a little bit more familiar with the difference between audio and MIDI regions, and we went over many capabilities of audio regions, the second part of this is going to focus on the MIDI region itself. So I'll see you in the next episode. MIDI versus audio, part 2, the MIDI region.